Crazy story out of Sweden. And additionally, he literally is just crazy enough to do it, so beware. Welcome to the ripple effect. Before I get into the military comments about that I'm going to get into, I wanted to dive into the trade war that's going on right now with Trump and Canada. Apparently, and I have not seen them because I don't have like TV in that sense. Why when you can pay for 1 million subscriptions, right? But the Canadian government, apparently under the Premier of Ontario, whose last name is Ford, apparently got out $75 million in ads for American TV to make tariffs unpopular, specifically with regards to him and his workers. And what they did is they actually played recordings of Ronald Reagan with regards to tariffs and so on. The problem is they took them out of context. At least that is what the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation is alleging, because they're actually considering legal action against the Ford administration. However, that's not even what stopped the Ford administration from doing what they were doing. Is Trump saying that he's walking away from the table of any kind of negotiations with them in the future because of their nefarious actions of trying to involve themselves in politics in America, which I don't blame him. I would be upset too. But besides that, besides the calling off of the negotiations, I'm also just curious, how does this government have $75 million just sitting around that they can spend in ads in America? Like, how is that a thing? Like, I don't have $75 million just sitting around in ads. I don't know about them, but good grief, $75 million in ads? I mean, I guess if it affects your economy enough, you're willing to pay, right? So on the military news, it seems like Trump either did or did not send bombers off of Venezuela. The funny thing is, it seems like the flight data says that he did send the bombers. However, he's trying to deny it. So is it a negotiation tactic, one of those things where he can kind of deny it? Or I just might blow you up. And after the whole thing in Iran, I don't think anyone's going to be doubtful in their mind that he is willing to go forward with it. And especially with the way Venezuela has been messing around recently, and even there was reports of CIA people being in Venezuela. So there's a lot of stuff going on down there. Keep your eyes open on that one. But I would just say to the Venezuelan people, he does seem crazy enough to actually do it. So there you go. In geopolitics, there's a lot going on right now in Israel. There's a fight right now in the Knesset and in the governments to try to overthrow Bibi Netanyahu. This is coming from the left side, siding with the super right side on annexing certain sections of the area there. It's the Judea-Samaria area, the Western Bank, and all that kind of stuff. And they're trying to do this because they think that they can overthrow Bibi Netanyahu by making him extremely unpopular. Will it happen? I don't know. He's overcome a lot of things in the past, but we'll see. Just keep in mind, there's a lot of things happening. What with the Hamas people going back and killing Palestinians now, Israel having to come in back a little bit more back into that area, and then now with this going on, it seems like there's a lot of distractions. It doesn't seem like it's very much settled. Let's just put it that way. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of things changing there pretty soon. And part of that was funny is I'm seeing some reaction from the left, and they're getting very, very upset that it might take up to 30 years to clear out all the bombs from Gaza. And I'm like, well, it is a war zone. That happened for a long time, where in a lot of other countries where they're having to go through and clear out bombs from war. Unfortunately, just wait until Ukraine gets over this, or gets over the war that they're having with Russia. It's going to be a lot worse over there, because there's going to be a lot more ordnance that was flown back and forth on either side that's going to have to be cleared as people come back into what we used to be a very fertile, and I hope it's still going to be a very fertile area of farmland, and that whole breadbasket of the entire area. Hopefully they can get it back to what it should be as soon as this stupid war ends. Now, speaking of wars and causing refugees, I actually have a crazy story. And the reason why I'm bringing this one is because I want us to understand that this is why it matters so much to us, who we import, who we bring in, and what different belief systems we have out there. And I know that a lot of people are lovey-dovey trying to say, well, everyone's okay. There's many paths that lead to God, and that's not always true. And there are problems that in certain religious groups, they encourage, even if not openly, but definitely overtly, bad things to happen to innocent peoples. And you'll understand when I get going on this, but this is a story from Not the Bee, which if you ever listen to them, they actually are really, really good. I'm surprised because, The Bee was mildly entertaining, if anything. The Babylon Bee is mildly entertaining, if anything. I'm not a super fan of them. But I'm more impressed by the Not the Bee because they pull out the news that's actually very interesting and very useful. And I believe they're Christians, not Catholic Christians, if that makes any sense. And so they have a lot of focus on a lot of good things. But one of the things that's happened today is actually kind of sad from them. And it happened a while ago, but it's being brought up right now as a reminder to us. But a Swedish court rules Muslim migrant who raped teenage girl won't be deported because, quote, the rape didn't last long enough. Now, this should tell you a lot of things about what we're dealing with, and you'll understand shortly. The guy only received 3 years in prison. On September 1st, 2023 or 24, the then 16-year-old girl was walking home from her shift at McDonald's when she passed through a pedestrian tunnel in a small city of about 40,000 on the coast of the Baltic Sea. I've been to the Baltic Sea. Despite her remote location in northern Europe, she ran across a 14-year-old Muslim man from Africa in the tunnel. This guy, whose last name ends with Muhammad, no surprise, decided to repay the country that accepted him as a refugee by raping the girl. He took her phone and began to assault her, but as he held her, she eventually managed to break free and run away. Now, eventually managed to break free and run away. Her family reported the rape immediately. A few days later, she returned to school, but guess who she saw there? Because guess what? This kid was in school apparently too as well. He was in the cafeteria when she came in. She had a panic attack and had to run to the toilet. Despite reporting the rape, the police initially did not take any action, and she continued to see her attacker around town, including at work, at school, and so she ended up stopping school altogether. When Muhammad was eventually arrested, he was acquitted by a judge for lack of evidence. The prosecutor, however, he had to file an appeal. Which led to the man being sentenced to a measly 3 years in prison, along with $25,000 in damages to her and her family, which of course he doesn't have because he's a refugee, right? So what was the point of the damages, right? The prosecutor also asked that he be deported on like basic common sense grounds that countries should deport foreigners who rape girls. No duh, right? You'd think that this should be understood, right? The court said no. So the court said no. They said that Muhammad is a citizen of Eritrea, and the prosecutor demanded that he should be reported. This is reporting that's in the reporting. However, the court appeal notes that the 19-year-old was refugee status, and in order to deport him, it therefore required by law that the act he had committed, which constitutes an extremely serious crime, and it should entail serious danger to public order and security to let him remain in Sweden, meaning that it didn't have enough seriousness to it. So get this. The rape of the 16-year-old is not serious enough crime to justify deportation, states the Court of Appeal, which refers to, among other things, to, quote, the duration of the rape in its assessment. That is a factual, exact what the court was saying, literally verbatim. In the Court of Appeal, their own words, it says this: rape is therefore in many cases to be regarded as such an extreme serious crime that can lead to a refugee being deported. But an assessment must be made of all the circumstances of the individual case. I mean, if it was my opinion, you would just kill everyone who, judicially kill them, who do these kind of things. But, hey, they're trying to assess whether it's serious enough. Here we go. Taking into account the nature and duration of the act in question, the Court of Appeal finds that the crime is indeed serious, but that there is no question of such an extreme serious crime that could lead to a decision on the expulsion of Yazid Mohammed. The deportation request must therefore be rejected. So this girl is getting violated, violently assaulted and violated. And the Swedish court says that it wasn't long enough of a duration for him to be deported. I hope that makes you feel terrible. I hope that makes you feel like crap. Because if we continue to allow nonsense, woke garbage into our country, that's the kind of stuff that's going to start creeping in here. And you say, how do we get to the point where we have those kind of things happening in Sweden? We have the girl getting killed on the subway, right? We have all the violence that's going on continually by the left and by people that should be in jail, because we have courts making decisions like that are absolute garbage. Now, thankfully, this was not in America. But I don't know if you're being assaulted or attacked or beaten up. And in this situation, I don't know that there's not even words for what this girl went through. And yet it wasn't of a long enough duration for the court to consider that they should do something about getting him out of the country. So they put him in jail for 3 years as an 18-year-old. He'll be out when he's 21. And do you think that he's going to be reformed? Do you think all of a sudden he's going to be like, that was a terrible idea. I should never do that again, as he gets away with 3 years only? The sickness of that culture coming into countries that do not have that culture, and even let's not even go there. Let's go even deeper. The sickness of that culture in the places where it comes from leads to these kind of horrible crimes, and we're allowing them in to our country. There's actually a really good YouTube channel called The Apostate Prophet. It's actually really, really good to follow. It'll open your eyes to all of the Islamic garbage that's coming into America. There's a lot of attacks from people. This is the problem: is sometimes we think, oh, we're winning, we're doing well, right? Because we don't notice how the invasions happen in small ways of ideas and everything else. Look at Dearborn and all the stuff that they're going on with now, the calls to prayer going on in Dearborn, right? The same thing with all these Catholic groups out there. And there's a good channel. I don't have it right now, but I'm going to include it in here later. There's a channel out there pointing out how many people, all of a sudden, there's just so many Catholic apologists out there telling you, you know what? People that believe the Bible, I'm talking about Christians, they that are not Catholic, they'll always label them as Protestants because they want to claim that they're just protesters. And they'll say, those guys are new, those guys are just apostate from the church, and they're just doing their thing, but they're not saved, they're straight away. And there's just so much of this push to be like, the history's on our side. The history's on our side. We're the ones with history. We're the ones that are deep with this religiosity and given the power from God from the beginning. And they use it. They use it to sweep all kinds of innocent minds and innocent people into their garbage. Misleading them. If you think that people like Charlie Kirk were okay with this, start watching some videos where he talks about Catholicism and what's wrong with it. It'll open your minds dramatically and clearly. I watched a video the other day where he was talking with Michael Knowles, and he was nailing Michael Knowles down on the infallibility of the Pope. And here's another point, and I'm going to finish with this before I go off. And as a Christian, we should think these things through. Even if somehow they had the historicity of going all the way back to Jesus and so on, well, they really messed up somewhere along the lines to get to the point where they're at right now. To the point of being so wrong that they're misleading people and sending them to hell. And are we doing enough to get out there and to reach people for God before they get taken in by the Catholic Church? Reach people before God before they're pushed aside by the Muslim culture coming in. Are we? Because there's a lot of people out there blowing the whistle saying that we're not doing enough. And if you're not reaching one, what are we doing? If we're not reaching and attempting to reach one person, even just one person, what are we doing? Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And please try to reach one person. We have the weekend coming up. We have all the availability of that time. Please try to reach one person for God. Please try to reach out and witness. And if you don't know enough, reach out and learn more. And there's so many good resources online. Like the channel I'll bring up. I'm so sorry. I should have looked up what his name was on it, but I've been watching him. He has a whole channel on apologetics for Christians that are new and young Christians that need to learn. And it's I'll probably post it here eventually so you guys can look at it. He's very good and very accurate, and it's very good, useful tools for us to have. But please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.